here we are, folks. We are back again. It's beautiful December in South Carolina for the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. We're excited to be here, and we're going to give you all a couple minutes to join in. I see we got a couple people joining already. Love it, love it.
Shout out to the frame. Shout out to the frame, Scott.
I'm getting glare on them, but let me show you close up, man. Are that a pretty green or what?
Nice.
Yeah.
It ain't easy being green, but somebody got to do it.
It ain't easy being green. Actually, I think I'm gonna take them off a little so I can sit closer to the screen here.
Yeah, they look they look great though. They look great. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I decided to go a little bit more noticeable this time
Bold.
instead of yeah, a little more bold instead of usually I've got pretty conservative glasses. I mean, I've got a few pairs sitting here. I got my old plain black
Right.
and in gold, same ones.
Ooh, yes, sir. Let's go. Now that you get it, those are hitting the scene glasses. That's that. Y'all, if y'all don't know, Scott be brunching. Okay.
We be brunching. That we do. Oh man, one of our favorite things to do is brunching. I can't.
Reforming marijuana laws and brunching. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Hey, all I can say is Joey's here, man.
Joey.
What's up, Joey?
Yeah.
Good to see you, my friend.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
All right, let me kind of start kicking things off with our welcome to everybody. Welcome to the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. I like to remind you all that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at SCNormal and follow Vaughn at Vaughn Postema on Instagram as well. Last but not least on our welcome, I do want to say please support our sponsors. Visit the scnormal.org pages / our-sponsors page to find our sponsors. We will also be having a new sponsor page coming up in the next couple of days. I'm starting to reach out, or have reached out, and I'll be doing a little bit more over the next few weeks to businesses in South Carolina, whether they be cannabis related or not, to donate maybe a gift card or a simple gift of some sort to our membership drive, to the grand prize drawing at the end of the drive, which will be in mid-April. As always, or as we have the past few years anyway, Dope Man the board game will be on there. And we also just got our confirmation of our first business donor. We'll be submitting a gift certificate. You can use to purchase from them online. So, very cool. If you have a business and want to donate a gift certificate, have an online presence, because that'll probably be easier for winners. We don't know where in the state they'll be. Let us know, and you will be posted on our sponsor page for the membership drive. So
nice, very nice.
There's that. Let me kind of go back here, see where we are. I do like this little clicker ticker thing to remind me what the hell we're doing. So Vaughn, what the hell are we doing tonight?
All right, today is going to be actually our pretty much like general body meeting, if you will. It is a time where Scott kind of fills us in with all the things that we need to know in the world of NORML, but also kind of as it relates to what, things that may have caught Scott's eyes or big announcements, things of that nature. That's what we got going on today. Second Wednesday of every month.
Second Wednesday every month, our general public meeting. Yes, ma'am. There we go. And that's what we'll have tonight. So our agenda pretty much tonight is going to be our national legislative news. I've got some interesting side ramblings to talk about that. State legislative news, and for the first time in a few months, there actually is some state legislative news. We'll chat a little bit about chapter business and upcoming events as well. Possible other announcements we might make during committee report section. But that's kind of where we're going to go today. Let's find the link. Where'd it go? Intro and agenda. We just did that.
And here we are.
Here we are. Okay, folks. Thanks for watching. No, wrong button. Wrong button.
It's a good time today, folks. It's a Wednesday. We're getting to the end of the year, and let me tell you something. Let this be a reminder. Both Scott and I, as the rest of our team for SC NORML, also work full-time jobs. And we get hyped to come and do cannabis conversations.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of funny because I have to have, and I'm getting close to the date, I have to turn in my leave requests every month.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks before the beginning of the month so they can get scheduling put together. And I have to ask for every Wednesday night off because I have a podcast.
Dedication, Scott.
And, yeah, they're good about it. They give me, and it's funny because I've only got really an overlap of about an hour and a half, 2 hours or something like that.
Right,
I could sneak into work for a few hours, but no, dedication. It's one of the things I can't do a whole lot more than dedicate my time and effort to this cause because somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
Juan's out there with me, and like I say, it takes dedication. We've had Low Country NORML, now South Carolina NORML, since January 2017. We're coming up on January 2023. So we're getting a couple of years under our belt here.
Yep.
And if y'all know the way the legislature works here in South Carolina, we probably got a couple more years, and that's a long stretch couple there.
Right. But we got some cool plans that I think that y'all are gonna dig.
So I was excited. We're putting together the newsletter yesterday morning, whenever I finished it up. Actually finished up my little segment. Kristen actually puts together the newsletter for us. Thank you,
Shout out, Kristen.
But that yesterday was 4 weeks from the start of I forgot what it was, the 125th session of the South Carolina legislature, the first half. So this will be the first portion of it. We run a 2-year session here in South Carolina. That date, I believe, if I remember correctly, January 10th or 11th. Boy, no, I forget. It's a Tuesday in January.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's the 10th. Will be the start of legislature. Some of the newly voted in representatives I've already been finding on the scstatehouse.gov website. So they're being sworn. Actually, I think they got sworn in earlier this week or late last week, where they kind of did their first day and stuff like that for the freshman legislators. So now's the time. Now's the time that we start getting out there and contacting these legislators. Joey's got it there. 10th is correct. It's the Tuesday, the 10th of January. Thank you, Joey.
I put a calendar reminder for myself, by the way, about that. I got birthdays on the calendar. I got when we're in session. So there we go.
When we're in session in the calendar. And I got to admit, I'm going to share this one real quick. Let me pull it up just so you can see it.
Yeah, thanks again, Joey. Appreciate you.
Share tab. All right. There we go, folks. scstatehouse.gov.
Oh, yeah.
This is your connection to the South Carolina legislature online. You can see right up here at the top, the first regular session of the 125th South Carolina General Assembly will convene on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. If you want to know who your legislators are, and we'll be bringing this up when we start talking about Lobby Day a little bit later. this box right down here, if you can see my cursor kind of swirling around where it says find your legislators, type in your address. It will take you to your top 5 legislators. That's including your federal level representative and senators, along with your state level senator and House representative there
Yep.
as well. Um,
It's a very, very useful tool. Like very, very useful tool. Even at a municipality level, the city of Charleston, I use that all the time too to see, who's my council member, who they've got a good interactive map where you can type in your address or find your address, things of that nature, and you click on where you live, and it'll show you who represents you. So, some valuable tools here.
Yep, definitely is. So let me go ahead and turn that off for a moment. Boom, back again. Um, and I guess it's time to talk a little bit about national news since that's kind of what our agenda calls for today. We're going to start with national news. And biggest thing going on, I guess, at the moment, national news is we are at the end of session for federal session. I think there's a day or two left. Um, Tomorrow, something like
Oh,
that.
yep.
And then the control of our, oh, which one's changing? Our Senate will be changing, I believe. Crap, now I gotta go look.
I'm refreshing this up. So while Scott's finding that, I'm actually going to be moving, still going to be in Charleston, but another reason why that tool that he was talking about before, the Find Your Legislators, is pretty cool is because, especially still being a renter and moving to different areas, like now my U.S. representative, my South Carolina State Senator, South Carolina State Representative, all of that changes just from moving.
Are you,
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
you
I'm in
gonna have
Sandy Sin
Sandy
country
Sin?
now. I'm in Sandy Sin country now, baby. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so sorry for you,
Sandy
for
Sin.
all of us.
Sandy, Sandy Sin, Nancy Mace, Spencer. Spencer Webster.
Uh, well, I mean, I still got to give creds to Nancy for the State
Yeah.
Reform Act. Matter of fact, I've got to follow up. I've got an invite for her. I was hoping she would come to our press conference and lobby day.
Nice.
Um, it would be great to have somebody from the federal level who's as passionate as it sounds like she is about cannabis law reform. I'm still impressed with her uh,
State
testimony
reform.
on
Yep.
in Congress, and
Yeah.
I'll let it go at that. I'm not going to go a whole lot further.
Yeah, definitely.
uh,
We'll have plenty of conversations.
yep, we'll have plenty of conversations. Um, but yeah, so it's an interesting district. Sandy's coming up for election, I guess, the year after next, 2024. We'll keep an eye on that one. Maybe you should run. Ooh, yes.
Woo!
Senator VP. All
Senator
right.
VP.
Uh,
Woo!
so,
Let's see. Let me know in the
uh,
chat. Should I be running or running away? Which one?
there you go. Let us know in the chat. Should she run or should be running away? That could be interesting. But anyway, national news, not a whole lot going on now because we are again at the end of session. There will be a change of power and there'll be probably a change of priorities. I want to say the Senate, but I'm not sure which or if both are changing. I don't have it in front of me. So maybe somebody in the chat can fill me in.
In terms of the session?
As far as federal goes, the balance in between parties, and
Days in session. Let's
maybe
see.
it's the House, maybe it's the Senate that's still maybe it's the House that's changed.
I'm checking
I
out
don't
the
know.
floor calendars.
Oh, okay. But anyway, so that's one of the things they were trying to do in these past couple of weeks is push through some legislation, get things passed while they still could. And one of the things we were obviously hoping for was some House is now red. Okay, it is the House. Thank you, Joey. Um,
Joey just coming through.
I appreciate it, man. I always
House
do.
is now in the red. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, it's the
yeah,
house that's now on the red.
yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. Um, so yeah, there was a lot of legislation trying to be sort of rammed through by the Democratic Party before the change of power. At this point, we'll probably see, excuse me, a change in priorities on what is going to be, pushed through, become a higher priority, or versus what is now. Um, there was hopes of the Safe Banking Act, which had been attached to the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. I believe that's correct. And that got pulled from that. So there was very little, room for the Safe Banking Act to pass in this term. Um, and I haven't heard anything more about it since earlier this, an article I read a little bit earlier. Um, but what I did want to sort of bring up, and I'm going to share a couple of things here with you in the chat again. Let me bring up just a couple of things to share,
Oh, and I
articles to
also
share. There we
I
go.
don't. Well, I'll wait to see
Uh,
if you touch on this today in terms of national news. Well, I'll let you.
oh, maybe something I missed. I don't
Well,
got it.
You may have already talked about it. But uh, I wasn't here for a lot of it. But the Biden signing the
Oh, the research
marijuana
bill?
research bill. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really touch on that. As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny because when I saw it, I had already known the deadline was coming up by like the 9th or 10th of
Mm-hmm.
December, and he signed it like on a 4th or something. And it was like he was expected to, at least from my position on it, he was expected to sign it. And
Yeah.
so when he did sign it, I just didn't really even, I don't even think I posted, or I may have posted like a day or two later, like, oh yeah, he signed it. He was supposed to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I didn't touch on that. That was part of what he had mentioned in that statement a few months back.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
when he was talking about
The pardons and
the
things like that.
pardons,
Mm-hmm.
was authorizing more research, and now actually signing that research bill that didn't make it an omnibus, Joey says, as far as the safe banking. Okay, that was the other. Yeah, they were trying to find like some way to get the Safe Banking Act through this session. Doesn't look like that has happened, or like I said, I think we might have a day left. I'm not seeing that happen at this point. Um, so not a whole lot of other federal. We know Nancy's, bill. She even said it before the elections. Um, Once the elections are over, she's going to start, trying to kick in, getting her co-sponsors to sign on board. Um, one thing I do give her credit for on this is her willingness to try and reach across the aisle. She knows she's got support for cannabis legislation from the left, but I'm waiting to see how much support she gets from the right. I'm watching um, the other House members here in South Carolina. There's 7 other House members. Let's see how many of them actually sign on with Nancy and support South Carolina and support these changes at the federal level, so we can start moving forward here at the state level. Um, but that's where I kind of came up with. I caught this article, and it talks about 50 years ago, Congress's own commission demanded that they repeal marijuana prohibition. I don't like that image. It's really annoying. There we go. And I don't have the book in front of me, do I? But I do have the book about the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse. And basically, what had happened was when, in 1970, when they enacted the Controlled Substances Act, oh, looks like we lost Vaughn here as I ramble on. And I'm getting a text. Her internet went out. All right. Yep.
I'm
We'll see if
back.
she can. Oh, there we go.
That
Welcome back.
internet drop was brought to you by Comcast. Thank you, Comcast.
I can't say that ours is a whole lot better sometimes, but yeah, that's why I keep my cell phone ready to log
That's why you
on.
got, yeah, I had to run and get the cell phone. I was like, man, I gotta,
Yeah, and it's
gotta have
not
it.
for me. It's not always my internet. Sometimes it's just my computer likes to crash in randomly throughout the day. Um, yeah, keep me on my toes. But where was I? Oh, so anyway, we're talking 50 years ago now. But in 1970, when the Controlled Substances Act was first initiated, it was also um, mandated that they create a commission or a committee. Um, which they'll probably mention it up here. National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse, also known as the Schaefer Commission, um, issued its report, and this is the book I have, Marijuana: A Signal of Misunderstanding. So they issued that report to Congress and to the Nixon administration. 9 members of the commission had been handpicked by President Richard Nixon, including the commission's chair, Raymond P. Schaefer, who was then the governor of Pennsylvania. Members investigated the issue of marijuana for 2 years prior to reaching their conclusions. So, 2 years later, in 1972, they rebuked claims that cannabis was a highly dangerous substance worthy of criminal prohibition. Rather, it determined that the criminal law was too harsh a tool to apply to personal possession, even in the effort to discourage use. It implies an overwhelming indictment of the behavior which we believe is not appropriate, and the actual and potential harm of the use of the drug is not great enough to justify intrusion by the criminal law into private behavior, a step which our society takes only with the greatest reluctance. 50 years ago, that report was issued by a congressional committee. Um, 9 members, handpicked by the president himself at the time. To those of you who are regular watchers, you know him as sarcastically my favorite president out there, um, especially when it comes to cannabis law. So, 50 years, folks, and here we are, still kind of fighting it, still kind of working, even though, after 2 years of study, and in it, I'm not going to go through this whole article. I can share this link down here in the chat with you. There we go. So, and now starting a new legislative session in South Carolina, we're going to start fighting for that 51st year. And I don't know exactly when they were first implemented in South Carolina. They may have been implemented previous to the 1937 Tax Act. I believe they were earlier in the 30s. Because many states were actually criminalizing cannabis prior to the federal action. But go ahead and take a look at that article if you would. I find it really interesting, especially now as we're ending another federal legislative session without any real significant change to this legislation, the Controlled Substances Act and the criminality of cannabis. I don't have the links with me handy, but there are some rather interesting Supreme Court cases that deal with marijuana, and although it's starting to be more boldly stated by legislators that this is unconstitutional law, our Supreme Court has found, well, Congress passed it, so yeah, it's still illegal. It's constitutional. One of the reasons why you will hear me rant from time to time that our Supreme Court should be elected and not appointed. Thank you very much for that. There is actually a comment in here. I noticed a couple of comments in here. One by Keith Stroop. The report is truly groundbreaking then, and it has stood the test of time and remains pertinent now, says NORML's founder Keith Stroop, who testified on behalf of NORML in several meetings held by the National Commission prior to the publication of this report. And also Morgan Fox, who's their NORML's political director, added, the fact that this report was ignored by federal government for half a century while countless individuals' lives and entire communities were upended and marginalized by misguided cannabis prohibition policies uh, is a stain on our country, but it doesn't have to continue. So, pretty powerful stuff when you think about it. Yeah. Um, but now I'm going to kind of switch it up just a little bit. Another article by the same publisher. DEA reports significant uptick in marijuana-related seizures and arrests.
Mm.
uh, I
Wow.
just I just had to kind of juxtapose that first one a little bit.
I was just about to say, what a turn.
Got to keep you on your toes.
Shock value right there.
So I will share that link there in the chat as well. This one I'm trying to find a date on, but this is a relatively new. I think this came out about 3 days ago. There. Actually, no, that came out in June 16th, 2022. But here we have DEA reports significant uptick in marijuana-related seizures and arrests. We know that the levels are relatively high here in South Carolina. I believe last time I looked, the seizure ratios were around. Well, what was it? I commented about this before on the program. I was actually watching an interview with, I want to say it was more like a union representative for law enforcement or something along that lines, talking about the civil asset forfeiture in South Carolina, and that the average numbers in South Carolina were like people had assets seized. On average, that amount was like below $1,000. I want to say it was a relatively small amount of money. When civil asset forfeiture laws were imposed to try and go after, cartel kingpins who had assets in other nations, and not going after some person with a little bag of weed in their pocket. Two
Right.
bags of weed. We talked about this last week. One sativa and one indica. Oh, now you've got it packaged for distribution. Federal charges.
Terrible.
We're gonna take your hoopty and we're gonna
Yeah.
just make you lose your job. Anyway,
Right.
here we are again. Again, this is now. I just realized I thought it was a little bit more recent article, a couple months back, but. We're talking about a 20% increase over 2020 totals, where according to figures published by the DEA, Domestic Cannabis Eradication and Suppression Program, statistical report, agents and their partners confiscated approximately 5.53 million cultivated cannabis plants last year. That's a 20% increase over 2020. Law enforcement also reported 6,606 marijuana-related arrests, a 25% increase prior to the prior year's total, when agents reported 4,992. So again, those are federal level arrests, where we know a lot of the arrests are state level, state county violations. The totals are the highest reported by the agency since 2011. When it reported making an estimated 8,500 marijuana-related arrests and seized some 6.7 million plants via its domestic eradication program. Commenting on the data, NORML's Deputy Director Paul Armentano said, at a time when the overwhelming majority of voters support legalization and when more and more states and even members of Congress are moving toward this direction, it's troubling to see federal agents and their local partners reversing course and reinvigorating their marijuana-related enforcement activities. I mean,
still relevant conversation for us, especially as we're talking more and more about moving into pushing for decriminalization on municipal levels. This is another big part of that. Civil asset forfeiture is an issue. People's items being seized is an issue, and decriminalization could potentially help with that. But it's something like that's an element that we're talking about this. So still pretty staggering that there's that increase.
Yes, yes. Okay, time to throw this up here because Joey just asked a question, and now I'm going to have to go and change my banner to state news.
That's what we call a segue, people.
Joey asked the question. Did you know Bill Herb Kurzman filed his version of CCA in the house?
House.
Oh, in
That's
the
what we're
house
going
already. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes. I have that bill number right up here in front of me. House number H3486. Oh, I switched to my email, didn't I?
We're
Let me
all
go
up in
out.
your business right now.
Yeah, all up in my stuff here. Um, that is House number 3486. It is the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act House version. All I know so far is the summary of it. Oh, there's bill text right there. Time to do some deep dive. Now that the bill text
Nice.
is in place here to
Oh, can
find
we
out
get that
exactly
URL
what
real
this
quick,
one.
Scott?
Oh yes, let me go ahead and get you the. I'll click back to the
Time
summary
to follow
tab here.
along. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Someone was just asking me about this.
Okay.
We've been waiting on this moment right here.
Let me go ahead and also drop this to you in private chat because you won't be able to. There we go.
Perfect.
You won't.
Thank you.
You got it. All right. So thank you, Joy, for the segue. That Herb Kurzman bill has been announced, I want to say a couple of days ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was on the 8th. Oh, yeah, I see it here. Last action 12/8/2022.
Mm-hmm.
It has been filed and it has been basically, well, it pre-filed. Pre-filed. It won't officially be filed until January 10th, folks. So until that time, that's when it will go into committee, be assigned to a committee.
Mm-hmm.
And now is our time to actually do a quick deep dive on that one. I'm going to go ahead and jump back here again real quick. Where did I put it?
I wonder what. See, I'm going to have to print these out. That's right. Printing things out. Gonna
There
have to
we
print
go.
this out and print out the last Compassion Care Act. And I'm just curious to see what the major differences are going to be,
Well, yeah.
if any.
Well, my curiosity is like, and some of our listeners already know this, the last version of the Compassionate Care Act from the House version included flower and included smoking. It was Tom Davis's Senate version that did not include smoking and did not include flower to appease law enforcement. So this bill, I want to see if it still includes flower or not. And if it still includes smoking or not, or if he's sort of redrafted his to echo what Tom Davis will probably be filing shortly. This is Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, Ina. Thank you for joining us.
What's up, Ina?
Um, so, yeah, I didn't realize a couple of days ago when I saw this that the text was out there.
Yeah, this is great. I'm skimming through right now, seeing what kind of pops out, just doing a little word search, if you will. See what they got here. Let me see. Flower mentioned one time. Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to deep dive into this. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
yeah,
can't wait to.
7:35. I mean, we don't want to
We're not. Yeah, we don't want to sit here and spend the conversation deep
because
diving
we
on this
will
one
nerd out on
particular
this,
piece
y'all.
of legislation. But thank you, Joey, for the segue into this one. There has been the House version of the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act already pre-filed. We'll wait and see. We anticipated last time a pre-filing by Senator Tom Davis, although I didn't see one until actual first day. Um, of session when he filed his last time. But that gives us a little bit of time to kind of look at Herb Kirschman's. Uh, but just to throw it out there, folks, there is.
Oh, let me I'm jumping in just because I see uh it is unlawful. This is in this bill. It is unlawful for a physician to certify cannabis products to any person for the purpose of smoking or burning. It is unlawful for a cardholder to possess cannabis in plant form or to smoke cannabis or use a device to facilitate the smoking of cannabis. A person in violation of this subsection is subject to the applicable provisions of law for unlawful possession of marijuana.
That was kind of my fear. Is
Yeah.
basically my guess is like last time. It's more. It's better for your legislation if you can have a companion bill from the opposite house. So,
Yeah.
if you're a House member, you want maybe a senator to sponsor a similar bill in the Senate. Vice versa here, Senator Tom Davis. As Pete, it was Representative Pete McCoy a number of years ago that had sponsored the House version. When
Mm-hmm.
Pete McCoy moved on, um, Bill Herb Kurzman has sort of taken that seat. Um, so I kind of anticipated that. A good eye catching that and all that fine print text. Um, we do already have and I dropped the link in the chat. We do already have an action alert out there about Bill 3486. It seeks to authorize medical use of cannabis in the state of South Carolina. If you'd like to send out a letter to your legislators, um, go ahead and click on the link. And like I say, the new ones are getting seated. Um, I'm starting to see more support on both sides of the aisle, um, but again, um, we're kind of early. Session hasn't fully started yet.
Right.
But now that we're talking about it, let me scroll back up here, and we will mention secondarily South Carolina Bill H 3135. Um, and I've said it before, I will say it again. This bill is sponsored by, oh goodness, why did I only see it right up top? Down here. Um, Todd Rutherford, Democrat in the House. This is a marijuana decriminalization bill for veterans. So it's not a decriminalization bill for all the citizenry of South Carolina. This would be just for veterans. And if you look at it for veterans that have been um, diagnosed with service connected post traumatic stress disorder, and even talking to some veterans, not all stress disorder that's service connected has been diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very
Mm-hmm.
limited in its scope. But that would be a simple possession or decriminalization for veterans with PTSD, diagnosed with PTSD. Um, Sponsored by Todd Rutherford. So again, that
Yeah.
83135. And just to throw it out there, if you like to talk about,
Yeah,
send out an action alert
I've
on
got
that.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna jump in here to say that I I'm just let me get my words together. One thing that I'll say off rip is that for the next cannabis conversations, I definitely want to pull highlights at least from these bills and talk about them. Or at least they're pre-filed, but uh, I just I think it's very unfair. I think it's very unfair to only have decriminalization for veterans, and even the criteria that's within this, just from this general skim that I have, doesn't seem like the most fair. And I know that there's going to be plenty. Uh, I completely understand that there's lots of sides to the coins in terms of being like, well, we got to start somewhere. Um, yes, and I think that if you're going to push for decrim for veterans, why wouldn't you just push for decrim for your citizens in general? Like, I don't understand why skip that step.
All right. Thank you for taking my rant for me.
I just I just really don't understand. It still feels like we're being um highly selective, like very, cherry picking this almost. And also on a federal level, you've got, active duty members who are still capable of losing their status within that realm if they pop hot. So it's kind of like, yeah, well, you'll get if you're active duty, it's going to be a problem. But if you're a veteran, we'll decrim it based off of this criteria.
I mean, to me, it would be a little bit different if they were actually doing impairment testing and not
Hmm.
just going, oh, you've got cannabinoids in your system from, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Um, we're going to destroy your life. No.
Yeah.
um, Last but not least, here I will throw out House Bill, South Carolina House Bill H3226. Again, this is a Democratic sponsored bill by Todd Rutherford, and this is basically the Put Patients First Act. Um, this is to authorize registered
3226.
patients to use medical marijuana or marijuana for medical purposes. Um, so again, another one maybe to see. I'm seeing. Oh, there's a bill text up there. Might be another one to sort of take a deep dive in, see what is and is not included in that one.
Yeah.
Um, but as I've said repeatedly here, and it's becoming more and more clear to me the longer I'm a resident of South Carolina, is that um, the controlling party is not necessarily interested in advancing legislation submitted by the minority party.
Yeah.
So I don't, as much as we could deep dive into this and find a text and go, oh, this is really a good bill, our chances of moving it forward in South Carolina, I would think, would be pretty slim. So I'm just putting that out there. Um, we're going to see a lot more legislation filed in the next couple of weeks, especially by the 10th. Um, I'm anticipating some decrim bills to be refiled, which we see them every year, two or three kind of worded exactly um, to decrim simple possession. If, if, if we can get one of those bills to be sponsored by the controlling party, it might have a chance. But
Yeah. I,
there is kind of our challenge, and that is
yeah.
why for our lobby day and press conference, I don't know if I'm barking up the wrong tree or spinning my wheels, but I want our lobby day to better represent. Let me go ahead and turn off share here a little bit. Better represent the controlling parties here in the state. Better represent those that are control of our House and our Senate. We know that we've got representatives from the controlling party to that support medical use. Uh, it gets a little murky after that. I mean, I've tried to go through our Smoke the Vote guide and try and get a feel for some legislators to invite to our lobby day, and not so much the lobby day, but to our press conference, um, to try and, I guess, bolster some of the impact that we have. Yeah, again, if we could have Nancy show up to an event like that, I would think that that might have some impact on our state legislators hearing a federal level legislator speak.
Y- Yeah, I agree. I wanted to go back really quick to something South Carolina Cannabis Coalition said about the ridiculous new 5-year felony for quote unquote diversion or sharing is still included, and they're referring to um, the House
The
the
Compassionate
new
Care Act.
Compassionate Care Act,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna read that out loud really quickly. I just had it. Hold on one second. Um, because I think this is important too, and why some of these things don't feel like they really go hand in hand. So this says this is something that's required of a qualifying patient applicant, and it says a statement signed by the qualifying patient applicant agreeing not to divert cannabis products to anyone and acknowledging that the diversion of cannabis products is a felony that upon conviction results in the revocation of a registry identification card and subjects the qualifying patient to a fine of not more than $5,000, imprisonment of not more than 5 years, or both. Um, I'm gonna tell you why. That, just quickly why that kind of really doesn't make sense to me is because with these, once again, this is without doing a deep dive, but decrim for veterans. Okay. Here's a bucket of people, right? A decrim for veterans. Then here's another bucket that says, okay, qualifying patients. Okay. So we've got this bucket of qualifying patients, which, when I look through the criteria just from skimming, it's kind of like, okay, I wonder who's really going to be able to qualify for this. And I wonder what those folks are going to look like. And I wonder if they're going to look pretty homogenous. But you've got that bucket, and then you've got a bucket of veterans. And if one, if me as a qualifying patient, I divert to someone else or share with someone else, I wonder how that's going to work if that person is a veteran. Like, is it decrimmed at that point in time? Like, are we starting to already see loopholes? Is what I'm trying to get to. Are we already seeing loopholes within these laws of how people are going to circumvent these laws? I mean, it just seems like a whole lot of trouble. It seems like a whole lot of trouble when we could just take a really thoughtful attempt at decrimming statewide. I mean, y'all, I'm not going to get on a rant either, but it just reforming reforming our laws can really be very simple in terms of like simple tweaks, right? Simple tweaks. Like, it doesn't even have to be this massive overhaul. You know, we can bite size these things. And I think that it's amazing to me how, it seems like the bite size for South Carolina is do this for veterans, do this for, it's all these select groups of people, instead of seeing what citizens who have already voted about how they feel about, they've already been polled about how they feel about um, legalization, but still excluding them when it comes to what we're presenting as what could potentially be laws. It just doesn't, the math ain't math in there for me.
And I think it also reflects back to that first story we talked about, 50 years from when the Schaefer Commission said we should decriminalize it, small amounts. In that same report, it talked about how cannabis consumers basically bought small amounts, maybe an ounce at a time, and then split it up into these nickel and dime bags, and even that simple sales should be decriminalized. And yet
Yeah.
here we are 50 years later, and our state wants to say if you divert a joint, whatever it might be. I mean, this is like less than simple possession amounts. Um,
Right.
they're just talking any amount.
Right.
You divert any amount, now all of a sudden, 5 years. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So
It
is
really
that the
doesn't make sense.
professional way to say puff puff pass? Divert.
Yeah.
Is this the professional? Like, is that what this is? Like, is that what we're saying here? We're saying, you pass the joint, like, boom, you're diverting. You're doing, like, I think
Absolutely.
that is,
Absolutely.
it's wild.
Yep, you have to well, now if you remember the hearings, um, and I think it was even our senator was trying to make it like it should not be in any way pleasurable to consume your medicine. I mean, they wanted it to taste bad. They wanted to add flavorants to make it taste horrible, so it wouldn't be enjoyable to consume your medicine. Um,
I can't even.
yeah, I can't wrap my head around. I can't find the word. I
um,
just can't find the word. Yeah,
yeah,
make it taste terrible.
that doesn't make, yeah, that doesn't. Woo!
Now,
7:51. That's
mind
all I
you,
can say. Don't.
I pretty much think a lot of alcohol kind of tastes terrible, but they let you pretty it up.
Oh yeah, they definitely let you pretty it up, and we definitely, myself included, like, you go to wine tastings, you go to different liquor tastings. I've been to tequila tastings. Like, there's a whole art around the taste of these kinds of things.
Yeah, and I've got some heavily rummed eggnog on my menu for later on this
Dear
evening.
God. Neighbor.
Hey,
Neighbor.
neighbor, come on by. So yeah, you can pretty it up. Nobody wants to make you say, oh, to have your alcohol, you have to make it taste terrible.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it
now of course that senator will say, well, that's not your medicine either. For some people,
for
it
some
is.
for some people it is. I mean, during the pandemic, liquor was still, liquor shops were still open. It was considered to be a what was the word? What was the word? Not
Essential.
necessary, essential.
That's
Essential.
it. Those
Essential.
essential liquor stores. Yeah.
So so
Hey,
there you go.
dispensaries, I got to give them credit. Dispensaries in
That's
legal
right.
states were considered essential.
As they
So,
should be, as they should be, because I mean, if you're going to
absolutely.
introduce a medical component, then you're keeping people away from their medicine. And so it's very amazing to me, and I know this is the simplest of things, but it's amazing to me that in one state it can be medicine, in another state it can land you in jail. um and even in places, let me get this straight too, is that even in places where cannabis is legal, there's still, and this is interesting in itself, is that there's still parameters around those things too. And I think that's another thing that is important to talk about, is that other states that have legalization, they also have their own limitations too. It's definitely worth it to check out NORML's website and go through all of the different legalization avenues. This is why I say, the glass half full individual within me says, South Carolina is actually in a really great place to be able to take a look at all of these different forms of legalization and say what works best for us right now. Like, that's something that is very underrated at the moment. There's a lot of different ways, even just right up the street in North Carolina. If you take a look at what their decrim is like, you know, when I read it, I was like, dang, this is still pretty, I feel like it's still pretty intense, but it's decrim. Like, they've made some adjustments. So why can't South Carolina make adjustments as well?
Our legislators are definitely afraid of SLED and our law enforcement here in South Carolina. Um, I was going to start talking about upcoming events, but I want to
Go for it.
backtrack just a little bit here. And Vaughn, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your Know the Law series.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Scott for holding it down for me last week, as I had a last minute event pop up. But Know the Law series, this is all about us going through our possession laws and possession and penalty laws for the state of South Carolina. I think it's really important, especially ahead of our lobby day, that we refresh ourselves about what it looks like, what's the landscape, the legal landscape, like for us in South Carolina. So each week I want to make sure that I go through certain sections of the law, and saying like the first one is possession, which is something that the SC Normal team is talking a lot about in terms of what can we kind of propose to say, hey, let's reform our possession laws, right? Like even in this moment where you have possession laws, that may have a certain amount of money for fines or a certain amount of time for jail time. Even if we shifted something to say that, hey, instead of $2,000, it's $200 for a fine. That's progress. Like that's something that can help citizens. It's not like the number one thing we would want, right? Number one thing that I would want is you don't have any fine, you don't have any jail time. Um, in the state that we're in, sometimes I think it's important for us to understand that those wins are advantageous and that they will help people. And that's the kind of thing that we're kind of simmering on. So the Know the Law series is just us reacquainting you with what the laws are here in South Carolina, so that as we go into our lobby day and even beyond, that we know what it is that what we're fighting for, what we're trying to reform.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I
No
wanted
problem.
to kind of hear it in your words. I was trying to like blurt it out last week. And blah, 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 blah,
Know the
blah.
law.
uh, know the law and shut the fuck up. Oh, hold it. Those are some other guys. Pop Brothers at Law. Gotta love them. Anyway, let's talk for just a couple of minutes here before we end up our. Oh, I saw another chat come in. We got a Tell It Sister there
We gotta
for you,
tell. Yeah.
Vaughn. We got
Yes.
it. We
And
got
also,
cheers from
yeah.
Ed coming
Yep.
in. Oh, that was for our
Yep.
drinking bed.
Hey,
And that's
Nancy.
mark
Hey,
off of
Ina.
other states, which we do have to do. I
Now
like
I'm
that.
telling you,
Tell it.
tell
Tell
it,
it.
sister. It just feel. I mean, I'm telling you, we're in a space where we can either sit here and say it'll never happen, or we start, fighting for the changes that we can make happen, because it's possible. It's possible. And I think that the more that we move into these kind of spaces, like when we see everybody else getting legalization, like we've got to dig our feet into the ground even firmer and say, okay, like now we've got a lot of examples of how other states are doing things. Like this is how this could happen for us, or this is what's working over here, and here's some similarities between our populations, whatever it may be. There's still hope for us.
There's still hope for us. And I think the biggest hope for us is that it's not a partisan issue when it comes to the voters. A majority of voters on both sides of the aisle support decriminalization, support legalization for at least medical purposes. Um, but like I said, close to those medical numbers is those that don't think anybody should be going to jail for simple cannabis possession. Um, the numbers are high. We just need our legislators to hear us talking about that.
Right. I'm
So
gonna say this very last thing is that if we're willing to put something on the floor about decriminalizing for veterans, we can at least be reforming the laws that already exist for citizens. That's all I'm saying, is that if you're going to put something out there for veterans that has parameters about how you're going to decrim for them, then we should at least be looking at how we can make a better a at least more ease, like minimize the discomfort for our citizens at large, for the population at large. i
for
i
our
think
entire population, yep,
I think our legislators
absolutely.
at least owe the people of South Carolina that much. 2 grand. Like why? For what? At least have like a first strike rule or something of that nature. Like there's so many things they could be doing for the general population. If we're going to do things for very specific groups of people, let's not forget about the population at large. Simple. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Uh, but you're making valid points, very valid points. And the one thing I do want to mention is that, when we do our lobbying and such like that, numbers count. Um, I get asked often, how many followers do you have? How big is your consortium? That kind of thing. So our membership drive is on. Your memberships help us fund our efforts. Although Vaughn and I and all of our other staff are volunteers, no one is paid to do what we do. Um, it still takes some money to do what we do. We've got to pay for a good example, this StreamYard app, or our post office box, or um, signs, stuff. We got bills like everybody else has, and your memberships definitely help us with that. During our membership drive this year, we again will be having a drawing at the end, so that anybody who signs up and pays their 2023 dues before February 14th will be in the drawing for our grand prize, which will include Don't Man the Board Game and whatever other donations we can kind of come up with for you from some South Carolina businesses. Also, and to sign up, visit our website, scnormal.org. Also, I'd like to remind you all, Lobby Day is coming up. I will be starting a new page on the website later this week to thank some of the sponsors. We are actually getting our first donations coming in for that drawing. So I'll be starting a new page for the membership drive sponsors and a new page for our lobby day. I don't think I have an official page, just a blog post out there for that at the moment, and a link on our coming events page. So, lobby day starts with our press conference. We will be having our press conference 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 25th, in the first floor lobby of the South Carolina State House. We will then start our scheduling of appointments shortly after that to take you off to visit with your legislators. So if you'd like to sign up, visit our coming events page on our website. Forgot where I was there for a second. And you'll find the link where you can register to have us try to schedule appointments for you with your legislators. I can't guarantee we will get appointments. Good example, my favorite senator won't schedule an appointment with me. She's made her decision on the subject and doesn't want to hear from constituents about that kind of stuff. So, but we will try. We will reach out to your legislators' offices, try and get your appointment scheduled. Also, if you don't want to chat with your legislator that day, you just want to show up and hold signs and be the crowd and show those numbers that we need to show, please come out at 9 o'clock on the 25th, January 25th, and hold up some signs and be our moral support. I want to kind of pop over here. I see notifications that some comments are popping in here. All right.
Yeah, I'm just getting South Carolina Cannabis Coalition was also talking about in South Carolina growing a single cannabis plant is a 5-year felony jail sentence, and then asked and or a 5K fine. And I just popped in there what it is. It's 5 years cultivation of fewer than 100 plants, which means, and we'll talk about this in one of the Know the Law series, which means yes, one plant
is manufacturing.
One plant.
Yep.
So once again, if we're going to do things for buckets of people, why can't we reform something that can affect the vast majority of South Carolina?
I mean, my opinion, these anti-cannabis laws are all unconstitutional. We shouldn't have to make new legislation to get rid of them. We should just wipe them from the record and say, oops, we were wrong. These are no longer laws anymore.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it.
Nullified, boom, abolished.
That's one way to do it. And that's why I want to take a moment to say here, like, I know we're at time. Oh God, we're over time. But I do want to say that something that I am passionate about reforming these laws. And yes, there are things that I absolutely would say, yeah, I would rather this. But I do want to let, our viewers know that I am in a space of saying, okay, well, where can we, what is our middle ground? What is going to make you do what needs to be done, talking about our legislators, like where's the middle ground? Because right now it doesn't feel like there's any middle ground that we're doing. It just feels like certain groups are able to have certain access. And I want to know what's going to be done for the citizens at large. There's a whole lot, like even with what's being proposed right now with the medical, with the veterans, these are all still very specific groups. There's nothing. What are we going to do for our people, our citizens of the state? What are we doing that's going to affect all of them? That's missing.
The choice at this point seems that we're going to continue to criminalize them.
Yeah, we're going to
Um,
continue to criminalize them, demonize them, give them felonies. That this is something that if you're going to push all of those other things, we need something for the people. You got to lower something. You got to do something. Something got to give.
Something got to give.
Like, I mean, come on, man. Something got to give. It only makes sense. Put the fine down, something. Like, what in the world? I digress. I
Yeah,
digress.
yeah.
Free THC.
Well,
That's right, Anna.
that's kind of all I've got for tonight. Let me just kind of double check, see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. No, we kind of did our couple of upcoming events.
Yep.
Vaughn, you got any follow up or finish up for tonight?
No, that's all. That's all. We have not forgotten about that Delta 8 memo. It's just hard to get on hard to get on schedules in December apparently.
Oh yeah.
But we have not forgotten about that, and we we have not stopped working on that at all. So that's still in the ether, and we'll keep you updated as that comes along. And then once again, like Scott already said, lobby day. Would love to see plenty of you out there. If you have any questions, please hit us up. But that's all I got.
Alrighty. Yeah, talking about invites and stuff like that, or trying to schedule. We did reach out to Senator Tom Davis to speak at our press conference. Did get a response back that he was unavailable for that date. So, but again, we're working on trying to get some speakers out there.
Hmm.
Hopefully, ones that will be able to influence our legislators, sitting legislators. So, otherwise, besides that, it's been a great night chatting with you all, folks. We really appreciate you joining us here. Want to say good night, and don't forget to come back next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. and we'll be having that conversation one more time.
That's right. Peace out, y'all.
Bye now.